out!
Hello dear viewer, welcome to the build! So, enough of the horribly OP combo-ridden characters. This time around I want something that works well and is relatively easy to build. The WARDANCER is a mix of a warrior and an assassin. Speed-based dual-wielding combat style mixes with powerful sneak attacks, also with the infinitely renewable Shadow Stone invisibility. You can refresh it at will once the stone's effect is held in the ethereal crown, so perhaps unfortunately you will need to finish 2 quests in order to get the required gear: Lost to the Ages and Interception. Interception is a short one that gives off the vibe of 2012 modding. Lost to the Ages is rather fun, I say, and you don't need to hunt for too many generic enchantments. Most of the gear comes from these 2 quests. The point of the build is to test the reliance on high stamina for its damage buff, which is possible with certain Vokrii perks. Does it work? Yes, although it would be stronger with a mace in her right hand, not a sword, but the Bone Shaver is extremely slick and has some advantages. It doesn't need to be refilled with soul gems and it deals a bit of bleeding damage over time. With some other Vokrii perks, the dagger in your left hand will also bleed your enemies and this stacks. It also stacks with lingering damage, health, poisons. Roleplay and backstory-wise, the WARDANCER is an alchemist from Hammerfell who abandoned her peaceful life after her husband died. He was executed by the Thalmor spies. She had never really used a sword before it happened, but now, once she learned the person responsible for her husband's death may be in Skyrim, she learns quickly, driven by vengeance. I'm vengeance. For the mods, we need Wintersun and Vokrii. Vokrii perks are used in a rather optimal way, so it's important. Wintersun, worship of Lekai, can buff your damage output after the devotee status is reached, but the build is very effective even without it, so you may skip it. We have a rather risky overall attribute spread here: 4 points of stamina for 1 of health. This can cause you some headaches early in the game, so maybe go 1 for 1 in the beginning, and then after you have around 200 in health, put all the remaining level ups in stamina. The race is the Redguard, simply vanilla Redguard, with the power of adrenaline. With the build finished, you should have around 550 stamina, which with the Furious Strength perk means extra 55 points of damage for one-handed power attacks. This is counted per strike. There are 3 strikes per a dual-wield power attack, so it sums up to around 160 extra damage per a dual power attack, assuming you can keep your stamina high the entire time. With the adrenaline power, you can definitely achieve just that, and it is just one of many ways, of course, that I envisioned to keep our stamina high. This is also why the standing stone is the lady. After acquiring the ethereal crown, add the shadow stone to that. The Shadow Stone invisibility is renewable when imprinted in the crown. Just take the crown off and put it on again, and wabam! Long-lasting invisibility at will. There is a perk in Sneak granting your dagger extra damage when attacking while invisible. And the deity is Lekai, who will eventually be able to grant us a substantial increase to all melee damage for 10 minutes or 5 battles, whatever comes first. We pay for the buff with favor, and the follower ability, constant, and you don't really need to pay for it, will make us ignore a little bit of enemy armor rating, which stacks with the Alchemist perk in alchemy, which makes you ignore 50% of armor of the poisoned enemies. Nice! The main skills are one-handed light armor, sneak and alchemy. This build is actually quite focused. These 4 skills combine quite well with each other, and you don't really need any perks outside of these 4, except 2 in smithing. Steelsmithing and Arcane Blacksmith, which were taken for the legendary difficulty and are perfectly skippable on lower difficulties because you will ignore a lot of armor and get substantial buffs to your damage output from other Sources. We need heaps of perks in one-handed. All the sword perks, most dagger perks except one rank of fangs, all the power attack perks on the right and all the leftmost perks for dual wielding. And of course, the amazing victory rush at the top. It restores 100 points of stamina when you kill something with a one-handed weapon. Given how much we want to stay on max stamina, this will be a major increase to the overall efficiency in combat. Disciplined Fighter should be taken as early as possible. It reduces the stamina cost of power attacks. Luckily, our right-hand weapon is a relatively lightweight sword, so we will have a manageable stamina consumption early. But still, we don't aim just for manageable, we aim for staying at max stamina or close to it as much as possible. The entire dual wielding branch will make us attack 35% faster, deal more damage and stagger, and in the end even resist more damage when dual power attacking. This Blade Dancer perk is another major breakthrough, because we have so little health. Luckily, we should be able to power attack ceaselessly, so this 30% incoming damage reduction will last. I skipped one rank of fangs. It would yield a rather minor boost to damage output compared to some other perks I needed, but it is required for unlocking the Spitting Cobra, which makes your dagger deal a bit of DOT, which stacks with a Bone Shaver effect and poisons. Disarming Slash is an unintentional dagger perk. Given the speed and ease of power attacking with daggers, disarming a scary, well-armed opponent should be super easy, barely an inconvenience. It's also super easy to remember which perks to take in light armor. All of them, except the unarmed ones on the left. Tough Hide is optional because we wouldn't want to go beyond level 50, that would be horrible, unimaginable. But the perk suits an alchemist and a redguard. It gives 40% poison resistance when you wear all light armor. So with the redguard resistance, it's 90%. It goes without saying, but all the rightmost perks are going to improve your combat greatly. Agility restores a bit of stamina over time, which is great for the Lady Stone, Stimulant's perk in alchemy, and a Dagger of Absorb Stamina. WARDANCER will grant you another buff to damage output, which is active as long as you don't take a single hit. The same goes for the Untouchable, which grants you an increase in movement speed, but the buff will be turned off for a few seconds when you take a hit. So, if you know there is an open combat ahead, because maybe you feel like it, or it's high noon in an open field on a sunny day, you can start the fight with the Slow Time Shout, which makes avoiding hits much easier. In Sneak again, take almost everything except Shadowcaster, Deadly Aim, and one rank of Silent Roll. Two perks are nice to have, but not necessary. Fog of War and Light Foot. Fog of War makes you harder to detect in combat, but with two ranks of silent movement and a few different ways of becoming invisible, the Standing Stone Power, the Shadow Warrior, and Escape Artist, it will be easy enough for you to lose the pursuers regardless. Light Foot you can seriously consider when playing on Legendary. With your low health and imperfect armor rating, traps can be a real nuisance. You will be able to avoid all their damage with the dodge roll though, and you can simply be careful for once. Come on, just look around! I need to stress how great the dodge roll is for this build. It can negate all incoming damage if you time it right. With the Shadow Warrior perk, rolling also makes you briefly invisible, which is great because Cloak and Dagger means extra damage to your dagger when you attack while invisible. And Backstab grants you 25% extra damage when attacking with a dagger from behind. So for your most powerful attacks, pray to Lekai before combat to get a buff to all damage, poison your weapon, turn invisible with a Shadowstone power, sneak up to someone's back, and dual power attack. This means 6 times the damage for our sword, 15 times the damage for the dagger, 25% more damage to the dagger again, and then 6 times critical damage again for the dagger. This one-shots giants easily, and even if something somehow miraculously survives this, they will suffer penalties to their armor rating, bleed, and be poisoned. Here is the list of alchemy perks. You totally need the leftmost perks up to and including Adrenaline. Stimulants will grant you another buff to stamina regeneration when under the influence, and Adrenaline will grant another 10% of movement speed. The Poison branch was taken up to Alcahest with all 3 ranks of concentrated poison. As mentioned, Alcahest can remove 50% of armor from poisoned enemies, just in case your sneak power attacks don't take them down instantly. Needless to say, the lingering damage poisons are going to be free frequently used, as they stack with the bleed damage you always deal. Slow is another effect to look out for, and for the beneficial effects, obviously regenerate stamina, fortify stamina, and fortify one-handed. And yes, on legendary you may need to improve your armor and weapons with at least one peerless smithing item, a blacksmith's elixir, and these 2 perks in smithing. For the gear we need the bone shaver and the best absorb stamina dagger you can find. It should be a dagger for the sake of the power attack speed, which will make the stamina absorption faster, as in more frequent. Yet another trick to stay high on stamina at all times. For the wearable items we need remnant agent armor, boots and gloves, the ethereal crown, necklace of peerless stamina, and the ring of peerless wielding. A ring of peerless wielding, actually. Belly, focus, concentrate. The remnant agent bits were smithed up to the epic quality for the video, and it is just enough to bring the armor rating to 440. It's decent, but with low health you need to be careful at times, especially when fighting spellcasters and dragons. In dungeons filled with warlocks it is advised to stay invisible and go full assassin on them. It's harder to pull off against the dragons, so remember to buff yourself with potions, maybe even take a follower as a distraction against them. This is almost everything. Slow time was the only shout in frequent use because it makes avoiding damage so super easy. Become ethereal, even just one word of it, could make dragon fights easier if you time it well. So this is the end of the video. If you are still watching, there is a very tempting red button down there. Click it. Click it. You may also leave a like and even consider donating to me on Subscribe Star, because I'm constantly running out of coffee and then I can't make builds. Anyway, dear viewer, have fun and we will see each other again, right? Right? Bye-bye!